Let's review Metasploit on Kali since we've seen it in use already. And to do that, we're going to hit on some of the things that we've already seen in previous skills and courses, but let's go ahead and take a detailed look at what actually happens when we start up Metasploit and look at some of the tools. Okay, we're in our VM Kali box, and we've seen this many times before. Now, there are different ways to start up Metasploit, but we're going to take the easiest route and hit Start on the top left and make sure we type in Metasploit, and you'll see it come up as the Metasploit framework. Now, when this initially starts up and opens up, it's going to ask us for our sudo password because this needs to be ran as admin, as it's accessing a lot of the internal operating system and some of the other applications in that elevated permissions level, because you can't exactly do scans and use the operating system like this as a regular user. So we go ahead and type in our password and start up, and you'll notice that it's starting up a database because there's a lot of stuff that's installed in the background, which we'll go through in a little bit. And as this is starting up, one of the best things that I like to see on this is it starts up with some weird ASCII art when it cranks up initially. When you see that ASCII art, you know that Metasploit has been fully started up and is ready to go. So let's scroll up a little bit and see what they gave us. The Oregon Trail. And we died of dysentery. Now, one of the first things that we need to do when we have Metasploit open is we need to assume that we've already done a lot of reconnaissance work using tools like Nmap, ZenMap, Wireshark, Nessus, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in the skill too. And as you can see here, I typed in the use command down here at the bottom. Let me highlight that for you real quick. And because there are different modules that we can actually use within Metasploit. Now, there's a lot of them. So it's not a problem if we go and look for help, or if we have a list at home of what modules that we commonly go to use for different sorts of things. And for that, I want to point us to an actual website that is ran by Metasploit and Rapid7, the folks that developed Metasploit. It's kind of a how-to guide to get started with some of the module searching and whatnot. Now here I have on the screen the actual Rapid7 startup guide and other guides for Metasploit. And I would highly encourage to go through this and look up some of the different instances that we can run inside of Metasploit and more detailed documentation on what it's actually doing behind the scenes. And as we can see here, that they have a basic demonstration of different phases of the investigation process that Metasploit can actually be used on. What we're taking a look at specifically are the modules. Now, this is further down, and I'm going to put the website below as well too, to make sure that everybody at home that's playing along can actually go through and see what's actually in here. Now, because there are different modules that we could use inside of Metasploit, we can actually use the search command as well too, and we're going to take a peek at one of these and see what they present for us as we do a search. So right here we see that they're in MSF Pro, which is a sub running system of Metasploit, and we're going to search for the exploits. Now, to do that inside of our Kali Linux Metasploit, we're just going to stay in the regular MSF6 command prompt or terminal prompt and type in show exploits down here at the bottom. And we're going to hit enter, and we can see that it comes up with a lot of different exploits. Now, the reason that these exploits come up and why we would use them is to align it with whatever vulnerabilities we find on a specific system. Now, for instance, let's say that we scan a system later in this skill, and we see that we have the 229 or 2229 exploit Windows SMB PS exec. And this is the year and date that vulnerability came out. Microsoft Windows Authenticated User Code Execution. And we would see that pop up in one of our vulnerability scanners and use that specific exploit to be able to create a reverse shell, go inside SMB for enumeration. So that's where Metasploit ties into all of our investigation and reconnaissance phases for the different incident handling process. Now, there are so many of these that we can't always keep a track of them. See, there's many of them. And that's why it's always good to have a notepad or a cheat sheet at home for different ones that we use. Don't be afraid to Google search or Metasploit search on the Rapid7 site for anything that we need. Now, at the nuts and bolts of Metasploit, there's MSF Venom, which we've used a couple of times previously, but now we're going to take a deeper look at how to get it ready and configure. because NSF Venom allows us to be able to do a couple of things, but one in particular is create a Trojan horse for a targeted system, whether it be maliciously or pen testing wise. But we're doing it pen testing because we're legal. And here on our desktop, I have a demonstration of how we are using MSF Venom to create the actual package that will go over to a targeted system. So I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to have it on the bottom of the screen as well. So we're using MSF Venom-P, and this identifies which exploit or package or module that we're actually using inside of Venom to be able to create this package. And for this one, we're using Windows, which is under the main Windows group for 64-bit systems, and we're going to use the shell reverse TCP. And what this does is it creates a backdoor channel. Now, I've actually made a mistake in here. Let me fix this real quick. This is targeting that IP address right there for localhost is supposed to be this system because it's reaching back to here. Now, the next port, the next one is port, and what port we're going to do this communication on, and we're always going to default to 4444 because, you know, it's a default that's used in all documentation. And the -F indicates that we're going to create this as an executable, and it's Pac-Maned out to a directory so that we know where the file is actually going, so we don't have to do a lot of hunting for it. Now I'm putting this on the desktop. Give me just a second to fix the actual IP address and we'll create it. Okay, so our IP address is fixed. We're going to hit enter, and we can see that it's already starting to create an actual package. Now when this gets created, we can see that on the bottom of the desktop, not this one, oh, there it is, right there. I'm moving it right here. This is the shell x64 executable. And if we right click on it and go to properties, we can see that this is a DOS Windows executable file. And this is something we would be able to execute here. And we can check this out by opening a terminal here on the desktop and doing an ls-la. And let's look around for it right here and see that is not listed as executable like the others, because again, this is for a Windows system. Now we could make in here for POSIX-based system, but once this file is opened up, we can actually create a listener on Metasploit and open up a backdoor channel through the reverse shell portion of this actual package. Now, using VM tools, I was taking this file and moving it to my desktop to move it over to the actual Server 22 VM host, and this popped up. And that's because this is noted as the package itself is made in Metasploit, so it's a known problem inside of third-party applications such as Symantec. Now, this one in particular, we're just going to undo action taken and start our undo, and it's back in our folder so we can move it over. But I just wanted to point this out, that when we do stuff like this, keep in mind that some of the packages that we build will be picked up by third-party antivirus or anti-malware applications. Okay, so I've dragged that package over to the Server 22, which we have open here on the screen now, and you may notice that my folder is empty. Well, if I go into the command prompt and see what's actually in there, I can go into stuff and type in a dir, and I can see that nothing's in there either. And that's because when the packages are made, they're usually made as default hidden. We're going to go into view and view our hidden files and see, boom, shakalaka, there it is. So what can we actually do with this? Well, do keep in mind that this may pop even the Windows basic security settings, and you may have to allow it for demonstration purposes only. And simply, we just run it. We're going to run this as admin just for a minute, and we can see that there's our thread. We're going to go in and allow this on here, and we can see that it's, I don't know if you saw it right there, but it was a Trojan horse. And I'm going to make sure that this actually runs in the background and fix this real quick. Yep, there we go. Allow on this device and see if we can run it again. Now, if we open up our task manager, Control-Shift-Escape and go into details, scroll down to the S and see if we can see this actually running. Let me move this over just a little bit and run this again and see if we can get it to pop. I saw, oh, there it is right there. Process ID 4680, and it closed real quick. And the reason that it closed is because we don't have our listener open on the actual Kali box. So let's fix that. We have set up our Netcat listener on port 4444, which was how we built the MSF Venom package, and put the command below as usual. And as you can see, we already have it starting its listening process. So we're going to jump back over to the Server 22 box and execute our executable that Venom made. Okay, so we're here. We're going to right click run as administrator just to kind of circumvent a bunch of stuff. And it's running in the background. Let's pop over to our Kali box real quick. And we do have a connection from that server. Now, in previous skills, we've already gone over how to exploit Netcat and get it to run from behind the scenes. So we're just doing a demonstration of how to get that MSF Venom package over to a box easily and what it does behind the scenes. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into this as far as like making that Trojan horse and having them selected. And we've covered this already by how to use social engineering, if you will, to go in and do some of this behind the scenes. So we got to make it to where it's enticing on that particular box to go in and do click on and to run behind the scenes, but also to get it to where it avoids stuff like third party and even the Windows antivirus and anti-malware detection. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into this as far as staging an attack on a system, whether it be for malicious or pen testing purposes. Now, this can be done with many other packages and many other modules inside of MSF Venom. I just wanted to point out here that Venom is used to build those packages inside of Metasploit. So in the next few nuggets, we're going to be covering other possibilities inside of Metasploit aside from just making that Venom package. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.